Hey everyone, Christine here, and I'm really glad you're here too. I want to wish you all a Happy New Year, and I hope that you had a wonderful holiday with the people you love. I did. I spent some time with my family, which was really important, or especially important to me this year, and we did our annual Christmas Eve fondue, which is always fun. And then the rest of the holiday, Christmas Day with the husband, and throughout the new year, it was just really relaxed and chill, but very festive and filled with loving gifts and really good time together. So I hope yours was likewise. So what's going on? Let's see. So I have a lot of projects to catch up on that I started back in the fall, really, and I've been kind of out of commission for the past 6 weeks or so. But I want to catch up on those because I'm really excited about those to share those with you. And we're trying to beat my hands into submission, into not being the little brats they've been. So hopefully that's going to be successful and I can get those projects to you. But in the meantime, I had a little downtime, or I took a little downtime, and I want to say that because it's important sometimes that we step back, that we shut down, that we take a break. And so for the last 6 weeks, while I was dealing with other like medical stuff and family stuff and some loss, I really did. I focused on just being and just relaxing and not feeling so pressured all the time. And I think it made a big difference. So that said, I'm now feeling really pressured to finish up those other projects so I can share them with you. But in the meantime, as I was preparing for 2025, I realized SparkBird needs a new petty cash register or book because, you know, I do tag sales and stuff, and I need a good, easy petty cash register. And yes, I could keep it on my phone, but that's really not half as much fun as using an actual cash receipt ledger. So this is an actual one I've had. I'm not sure how old it is. I don't know if there's a date in here. It just says 1912, 1913. So it's pretty old. And I picked it up at a tag sale or, you know, an estate sale, and I've really treasured it, but I haven't done anything with it. So I decided to use that as my basis to make one for myself that I can use and write in, and that can serve the same purpose. So that's what I did. And I really love it, and it's so easy, and you'll see just how easy it is. So it has a marbled paper, printable. This is a kit. This label also comes off. It's not part of it. I'm deciding if I want to put that here or not. It has a tape spine, just like the original. I wish I had brown, but I only have black right now. And then ledger pages where I can put in the entry and the amounts. So I did that, and I thought, well, this is fun. What I love about it is it has a nice sheen, and I'll show you how I accomplished that. So it kind of mimics the original, not quite as glossy, but close. And it could be glossier, I just decided it didn't need to be. So then, in addition to that, I got for Christmas a new bread pan, because my husband knows I'm trying to learn patience through bread baking, and it's almost sort of kind of working. Like I'm sometimes more patient, but so I got this new bread pan, and I've been playing with it, and I could show you some photos of some breads I've made and some pizza. But I needed a book that could be a companion to this one, so I can use this one as I have been, which is to journal about both the recipes and to throw in some pictures, but also to journal about what was the experience of making the bread. There's some longer passages in here. So I needed something that I could keep more readily in the kitchen. So using this idea, I made this little book out of some artwork, and instead of using tape, I used fabric. So it's really super cute. Same thing inside, there's just some ledger pages. And again, this could be for recording recipes or modifications I'm making to a recipe as I'm working in the kitchen, and I don't have to have this big book there all the time. So I made that as well. Same thing, a little bit of gloss to the cover. And this one I remembered to put the end papers in. You'll see in the video where I didn't on this one, but it worked out fine. So, you know, fear not. You could just let go sometimes, which I'm learning to do. Anyway, so that's what I was doing the last day or so, and I want to share with you how. Both of these are kits, very easy, but you can use your own paper. Just use any chipboard or cereal board or cardboard that you like. It could be the back of notebooks. I like mine to be a little bit thin, so I use chipboard. If I were to do this with cereal board, which I would if I had some, I would do at least 2 layers glued together so it has some bulk. But again, I will show you how to do this. You can do this with any paper. So let's get started. Glad to be back. Okay, so what have we got here? We have a cover. It's going to be our front and back cover, and it's printed on HP Premium, 32 pound, one of my favorite papers, and I've sprayed it. You can see a little shimmer here with my second favorite clear gloss sealer, and that is to try and mimic this shimmer on the original. So I think it does pretty well. We're going to go with it. I also have printed what will be the end papers for the inside. Now the original had a plain paper on the inside, which they wrote on, but we're going to have a pretty end paper. And then my signature. Now I'm going to do one signature, and I've got 15 sheets of 20-pound copy paper. Pretty cheap stuff. Printed both sides, and everything in the white's going to get all trimmed off, so that's not a problem. And the end papers, which will get attached to this, and the cover were also printed on HP 32, like the cover artwork. And then I've got one piece of chipboard. This is like, I don't know, maybe 2 millimeter, and it's pretty sturdy. You could definitely use a couple layers of cereal box glued together. You could use the back of a notebook, as long as it's fairly sturdy. And again, I like my covers sturdy, so I'm going to go with the chipboard. I also don't have any cereal boxes right now. So what we want to do first is get these pages all folded. And that's just a simple fold it, and you do want it reasonably straight, but all we're doing is folding. Okay, so I've got 15 because I'm going to sew these on my sewing machine. You can do a 3 or 5 hole pamphlet stitch if you prefer, and I'll link to a video that shows that. If you've got a hefty stapler, you could do that. I am going to throw them on the sewing machine and just zip down this center. So I could have folded more of these at one time together. It's very thin paper, and I sort of varied dark and light pages, different staining, and that'll all be in the kit when it comes out. And of course, you can use any paper at all. You don't have to use this ledger looking paper. So I am going to now go and sew this right down this center. And for those of you who want to try sewing it on your sewing machine, I'll show you how I do it. I have a reasonably heavy duty sewing machine, a Singer heavy duty, although it doesn't seem any heavier duty than my original 1980s sewing machine, but that's what it's called. And I'm going to clip these. I want to keep every page as aligned in the fold as I can. So I'm just going to put this on here and do the same on this side. And I'm just clipping them. So then when I open them up, I can monitor the fold here. All right, so I've stitched, and I had a satin foot on, presser foot, so it's a little wonky because it had nothing really to hold it together, or to hold it even. And as you can see, I didn't do a great job, but I think we're going to be fine. So now I'm going to fold on that stitch. And again, give it a little encouragement to stay folded. Yeah, we'll be fine. It's a little wonky, but not a problem. So now what I am going to do is run a bead of glue right across this stitch. Oh good, the furnace came on. It's like 2 degrees today, so I'm happy to have the furnace on. So as messy as that is, yours will be neater, and mine usually are, but I'm going to spread along there, and then just kind of, this is just going to lock in the stitches because I still have to trim these sheets, so I wouldn't have known where to anchor my stitches anyway since they're going to change. So this way I'm just reinforcing that the stitches won't come undone no matter where I trim. Oh good, hands full of glue. Can you guess what I did today? Yes, I changed the ink cartridge. Alright, so I'm just checking to make sure whether I think that's enough glue, and I think I want to put a little bit more up here. You don't have to be too concerned about it, but you know, you'd hate your signatures to come undone after the book's assembled. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry just for a few minutes. This is pretty quick stuff. Then, once it's dry, I am going to trim. So I'm trimming this book to about the same size as the original, and that's about 3 3/4 wide and 9 1/2. Now I definitely want to keep a lot of this part up here where it has the larger border there, larger margin, because this one has it. So I didn't put the lines going all the way up, but I like that there's this extra room at the top. So when I go to trim this to my final size of 9 1/2, I'm going to trim from leaving this part and trim off this part. So I'm going to do it on the paper cutter because there's no way my hands are going to do this. If you were going to do it, you would simply do the slow motion way, where you would take the ruler and line it up here and grab a utility knife, and then in slow, even strokes just trim, and then you'll get a nice trimmed edge. Don't try and muscle it, don't try and force the blade through, just take your time and go, and you'll cut through this in no time. And then you would do the same for your tops and bottoms. Okay, I'm all trimmed up. You can see I need a new blade on my paper cutter because this page is a little less than crisp, the last page on each. Not to worry, it's an old book. So now I want to cut my chipboard to be the same size, so more or less. I'm going to do basically a scant measurement here because I want it a little bit narrower, like just a smidge, so we leave a little gutter room. So let's see what this is 3 3/4, which is what I had hoped for. Yeah, I would take like 1/8 off. So instead of 3 3/4, it's going to be 3 5/8, and then 9 1/2 should be the measurement for the height, and it is, but you should double check. And then so it's going to be 9 1/2 by 3 5/8. Okay, so I've trimmed my covers to this size, and that's going to leave a little bit of gutter there, see that, on each side, like so. Okay, so now we have to do a couple of more things. One is we have to glue our covers onto our artwork. I'll do that now. Uh-oh, I just realized I did not put on my end paper, so we are going to have to add them differently than I expected. It should be okay, but we'll deal with that in a second. Okay, so let's see, let me think about this. I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to use this top one as the end paper. I'm just going to do that. Don't make that mistake if you want a fancy end paper, but I'm going to just let this be the end paper. Sort of like the way they did it, you know, they had a blank sheet of paper which I should have done. I should have attached this to this before I sewed that. But that's all right. We're just going to let it go because we're in that kind of mood. 2025 is going to be the flexible year, since I don't have any control over anything anyway. Okay, so I've got my artwork, and I'm going to glue each of these down just on the back. Now, the only important thing in my mind is that that the edges be good and glued so that it doesn't unravel later. So I'm going to use this glue. You can use any glue you want. And I meant to mention also, if you'd rather seal this with something like Mod Podge or one of my mixtures for sealer, that would be a great idea. But I did it with the spray because it's faster, dries faster, and lets me get on with the show. So I'm putting a fair amount of glue here, and then I'm going to come back and squeegee it out. So, because I want it to the edges. The middle is less important, but the edges matter. So if you think you have to add some more glue, go right ahead. Don't be shy, because you're not going to want it to come apart. See, now here this glue is already drying, so let's get it going. And we're just going to put it down. So I designed the artwork so that I thought some of the worn away parts would be in the right spots, no matter what size you ultimately make your book, your ledger, because you don't have to make it the dimensions I'm giving you. It's designed to be flexible. So let's do the second side, back cover, front cover, whichever one it is. And again, get out to the edges, whatever it takes to do that. Okay, that should be good. And let's get those in place. Alright. So we have some glue scored out. So I assume that's enough on that side. Let me close this up. I'm going to flip this over like so. And give it a good rub. And now we're just going to let that dry a minute. All right, let's see. Are you dry? Are you dry? Feels like it could still use a minute or two. So while we're here, all right, that's getting very close. All right, so now I want to take the Happy utility knife and I'm going to trim this right to the edge. Just follow the edge, all the edges. Just run it right along. Yep, I guess that glue wasn't completely dry. Okay, make sure it all comes off here. There we go. All right, so there's one cover and the other cover. And you get to decide which is which, like which is the front and which is the back. I think I want that as my, well, I kind of like this one too, and that would be where a thumb might be. Yeah, gonna go with that in the front. Okay, I'm gonna give those a second. Okay, so this has had a minute or two to acclimate the cover to the chipboard, and now we want to round the corners. And the easiest way to do that is, let me think again about if I'm going to try and get this on here. This was supposed to be the end papers, but if I do that, I'm gonna have to sew again or glue it, and I don't want to glue it. So nope, decision finalized. Sticking with the original idea. Okay, so I'm thinking this is my front and this is my back, because the edges here that are worn, I want on the outside edges. So I'm gonna bring this into my chomper and chomp. Now ideally I would do this later, but it's gonna be tricky in terms of how much corner rounding we can do when it's put together. So I'm just going to round it all now, including the signatures. All right. Ah, look at that. Mistake number 2. I did the back on the wrong side. This is just how my brain is lately. I swear I am completely unfocused. And some of that, well, I'm not getting into it. Anyway, do better than me, okay? Pay attention. All right. So check your edges. I'm finding this one group here looks a little bit wonky. I think it will be okay. Let me try one more cleanup of that. This is also my least favorite corner chomper. I think it's not very sharp anymore. I have to do some, I guess what they say to do in it, aluminum foil. All right, but we're okay. Everything is good, except for that. But I won't care tomorrow. Why don't we go with that? All right, overall, we're in great shape. So now I do want to ink these edges of particularly the board, just to make me feel better. Much better. Okay. I will do the inside pages later, although this paper is pretty thin, so the white edges aren't showing. It looks aged enough for me. All right, so now what we want to do is line up our covers and our signatures, and we want to line them up on this edge and the top and bottom. So that is what we want to do, and that's looking good. And then we have to get the next step ready. Okay, we can get the next step after this step. So what we want to do now is actually attach our signature to the covers. Now remember, in the real world, this would be your end papers. This would be, in my real world, this originally, had I remembered to put it on. But we're just going to go with this. It's going to be fine. I think what I might do though is use spray adhesive, because this paper is a little thin, and I don't want to use this because it'll show essentially, and I don't want to use white glue or a PVA because it will take too long to dry for me to do this now. So I'm going to go grab some spray adhesive. Okay, so now I want to put a piece of scrap paper in here so I don't get adhesive all over everything else. I'm going to spray this sheet. And then I'm going to carefully come and put this top on it. Now I don't have a lot of time with spray adhesive. It's not as forgiving as some of the other glues we work with. So I'm going to want to get it in place kind of right the first time. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do it top down or more like this. I'll figure that out after I get it all glued up. Okay, now you want to make sure you've got your correct top and bottom here. I'm going to get rid of this because it's sticky. And now I'm going to put this where it needs to go. And see what I mean? I mean, you really don't have a lot of time. And it's sticky. It would have been better had I put my end papers on. There we go, that's pretty good. Let's go with that. And I'll lay it down. If I had put the end paper on, I could have fudged it a little bit more because I could have used this glue because that paper is stronger and thicker. But this will work. This will work just fine. I'm trying to be less me and a little bit more flexible. So that's going to work great anyway. So now I'm going to do the same thing to the back of this one. All right. Now, still want to stick something in here. And let's see if we can get this lined up well. That looks pretty good. Nice. All right, so that way it was a little easier. All right, so here's our book, kids. It's really coming together. Now we just have to add our spine. Equally easy. So let's do that. So I'll be using this basically fabric tape, gaffer's tape. It's very much like book tape. You could use duct tape. You could use fabric. There are a lot of options for binding this way. You could just paint some muslin or some, cotton and lay it along here. This is what I'm doing, but as you can see, it's a simple binding. And when you get yours together and you look at it, you might decide you want to use something else like fabric. So I am going to take some of my tape and pull enough of a length of it and stick it to some non-stick paper. This is just some Staples sticker paper. And I'm just going to lay it down here so I can pick it up again. Now I think this length, this width rather, is going to be just fine for my book. So I am going to leave it. You could, now that you have it on paper like this, easily trim it to a different size. If you wanted it a little thinner, by all means, feel free to do that. So a couple of things I'm going to do is first I'm going to measure. And my tape is 1 7/8. So 1 7/8, let's just call it 2. 2 inches divided in half is 1 inch each. But I have easily 3/8, a little bit more in the middle that I want to accommodate. So I want to put it not exactly centered. If I did that, it would be a trickier alignment to measure it up. So I'm just doing it by eye right now to see how am I going to like that. I think it's going to be good. So let's see, I'm going to say 1/4 inch minus 1/4 inch, because I'm going to draw a line on this. That's why I'm doing all this math. So 1.875 minus 0.375 for the about 3/8 of an inch. So 1 1/2. So I'm going to want to divide that by 2 so that some of it falls on the front, some of it falls on the back, and that gives me 3/4 of an inch. And it's just, again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't think the original is perfect. Yeah, when I look at the original, it's far less on the front, far more on the back. So we don't have to be too crazy about it, but you know me, I like to be precise. Okay, so this is my front. So I want to know that because I want to apply it to the front. I'm going to use a sewer's ruler here and line it up to about 3/4. So I'm lining the edge of my cover and I'm going to draw a line. This is where I'm going to try and aim for my binding tape. And I'm simply then going to pick this up, pull it off this side, and try to kind of eyeball it there, get it right. Let's try that. That looks pretty good. All right, now hopefully we'll be close. I'm going to take it off the other side, take off the paper, and then I'm going to pull this up. Not especially tight, just kind of normal tight. There we go. Then I could have done this already, and I probably should have. Using adhesive scissors, I'm going to cut this tape off. Actually, let me open up the book. That will make it easier too. And then I can use my utility knife. Good. Yeah, there's going to be some pinching, and that's okay. We're going to work on that. Okay. Yeah, but if we can pull away some of the tape, it'll be easier. To trim it. There we go. Okay, there's one. Hey, oh, this one is funny. Oh, come on. Don't make me go get the other thing. Oh, no, I'm not worrying about you. I have other things on my mind. So there's this one, and this one, and then the middle. Let's pull it off. There we go. Oh, you guys, isn't this sweet? Look at this. That's looking pretty good. All right, so now we have that done. Let's stick that back there. I do want to open it up to the center and just look at how we're doing here. I like this tidy. And then it's going to still turn all the way out. There we go. And then we're going to run our hands along the spine. And we're going to get this lovely ridge. See that? Can you see that ridge? So we have a little bit of a gutter area. And by doing this, we're actually attaching the tape to the signature. And that'll help us keep everything together. And there it is. We essentially have recreated a lovely antique ledger that we can now have all sorts of fun decorating and inking the edges, as one might. Oh, I have to fix that. That's going to make me nuts. It either has to be very off or very neat. So, there you have it, friends. Very simple, easy to do, can be done in multiple sizes, and you have lots of leeway. You could use any paper you like on the inside. It doesn't have to look like a ledger. It could look more like a journal or a travel guide or travel log, whatever you're looking for. So, go create the awesome.